Good evening, Facebook. Welcome along. It's Tuesday. It's 7:30. It's not Cracker Jack, although I think you've probably got a couple of kids TV presenters here. And it's Leicester Till I Die. And hopefully we're going to get a few people join us as the conversation goes on. Otherwise, we'll just chat amongst ourselves. Good evening to you, Craig.
We'll just ramble on, Chris, won't we?
Well, it's what we do. It's what we do good. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Chris. How are you doing?
Not so bad. Typical Leicester. I've got all my screens up here. I've got Sky Sports. According to everybody but Sky Sports and the club said we have a new defender, but it's just not been confirmed yet.
Yeah, it does seem like everybody thinks it's a done deal, but until it is a done deal and he's holding the shirt, as they say. I'm not sure. Again, different price points.
Well, I've got the Mercury site up here, and it goes, I like Leicester style, Timothy, and I'm sure you've picked this subject to catch me out on all these names because I am absolutely useless. I struggle anything past Smith and Jones, and I struggle. Timothy Castaigne, there we go. Well, you know who I mean.
Castagnier, should go with Castagnier.
We'll go with Castagnier. Discuss his dream transfer. So according to the Leicester Mercury, excuse me, just bending down. According to the Leicester Mercury, it's done and dusted, but like I say, nothing official yet. Now, is that, do you think, because I know the Belgian squad are away at the moment?
They are. I mean, it could be that they're just going to get the right people in the right places with a camera in front of them, and maybe they've had a run on shirts in the shop. But they've not managed to get one with his name on.
Messi's not signed for anybody yet, so you know you never know.
This is true. Although I did see that the one of the presidential candidates has basically given up hope on Messi staying. So hopefully we'll get to see him in the Premier League at least.
Well, if we see him down Scrapped Off Lane in a fish and chip shop, we'll who knows coming to us. So back to our Belgian friend. Yeah. I mean, pleased, happy. I believe he wasn't your first choice, but
I'm going to go with indifferent. To be honest, I think to me it's got all the hallmarks of a squad player, mainly because everything I saw about him and have watched is all right back. I know he's covered last season. I think he covered quite a bit right and left back, but he was essentially used as a covering player. And even in the last couple of Europa League games, I think Atalanta were in. I don't think he got off the bench, or he got off the bench late. But to me, it looks like someone who could fill in both sides. Whether he'll start as a left back, I'm not sure. If we're playing a 4, I'd be surprised that he pushed James Justin out of the way. So to me, it looks like it's squad filling, but squad filling of a very, very good level, shall we say.
I know for last season for Atlanta, he was right back all season. But I believe before then he has played at left back, and he can even do centre back in a back 3. So he is versatile, and you know if we have sort of any further, we know what happens with Pereira. If he gets injured again, we struggle. We do miss him. Yeah. So if he then moves over, having had the more experience possibly than James Justin, if he then, moves over to right back with Luke Thomas coming in at left back for a bit, we have, is giving us that versatility because both him and James Justin are both, they both can play both positions.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that Brendan sees James Justin as part of a 3. Because he played well when he was part of a 3 the last couple of games. But also, to me, he's looked more attack-minded when he's played on the left than on the right, to be honest. So, I don't know. I'm almost given up trying to second-guess Brendan and what's going on and what's in his thoughts.
We've both been Leicester fans long enough to know we should never second-guess Leicester at all. Can I just say, and I'm just going to say a hi back to whoever Facebook user is, unless people are actually signed in with StreamYard, which is the what we're using tonight, it doesn't actually show your names. So, hello, Facebook users 1, 2, and 3. Don't know who you are. If you want to sort of add your names in the comments, then we can give you a hello back. But hi to whoever they are. But this particular one says you won't be coming to warm the bench. Do you agree with that, Craig?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine with me. I mean, I guess it means they can abuse us without giving their name. But
that is very true.
Yeah.
But do you don't think he'll be coming to warm the bench?
Well, I noticed one of the users there. I've also noticed one of the users is asking me a question about the best goal I've ever seen scored at the King Power. I've got a sneaky feeling I may know who that person is. So we'll move on. Yeah, we'll move on from that. It was a goalkeeping error. As I say, I know so many people there are thinking that he's not going to warm the bench, but I'm not sure. For me, he's a right back. You know, there must be that they've looked at him and seen him as a left back. I would much rather see us bring in a dedicated specialist left back. I think it's okay filling in, but you know, during a long, hard season, fullbacks are specialist roles, and particularly in this day and age where they're being asked to get up and down, I think you need someone who knows how to play that position. And I know you've talked about a few options that we've been linked with, and some that Leicester fans like, and some not so. But I know I've got my own favourites in that list, and one of them may be a surprising one. But I would definitely like to see us bring in a specialist left back.
Do you think there's another left back signing out there, or do you think this is it? I mean, because of course we were talking that we needed a cover at centre back as well. So is this just the first of possibly another defender come in, or do you think this is it?
I would like to think there's another one coming, to be honest. As I say, if you were only bringing one in, I would have thought you were looking at a proper left back. And this guy isn't, with the best will in the world, he's not a proper left back. He's been very impressive, but 90% of the games are at right back. So I would like to see us bring someone in, and hopefully there will be. The thing is, we don't know the budget, and as soon as, we sell Chilwell for 45, 50 million, whatever that is, people are going to say, right, well, we think our left back's as good as your left back, therefore they should be the same price, which makes it difficult for us.
Yeah. Go on then, and I know you've told me, but who would your other defending signing be?
My ideal left back is one that we've not been linked with, unfortunately, or not for a long time, but I know Manchester United will link with him, and it's a guy called Alex Telles. Now, he's at Porto at the moment. Now, he's told Porto that he's staying there this season because he's only got one season left on his contract. Now, to me, that would say that, a decent bid, if the player was open to it, a decent bid, and Porto would take it, because otherwise they're going to risk losing him for nothing next season. This guy is Ricardo on the opposite side, but on acid. He's got he would be a fan's favourite instantly.
Yeah.
As a left back, he takes all their penalties, which is unusual as well. So he takes his free kick. He's a dead ball specialist, takes all the penalties, but he's got tricks galore, and he just bombs forward. You think of somebody like when Gareth Bale was playing left back, but there's a left mid at his pomp. This guy's got it all. So Alex Telles is the name at Porto. Okay, they've got Champions League, but they rarely get to the later stages of it. So I'd love us to go and get him. He would be my number one pick, without a doubt.
I must admit, I was holding out for, and again, excuse my pronunciations here, but Nicolas Tagliafico from Ajax.
Tagliafico, he would be my number two. Yeah,
I just think that he
would be my number two.
I think having spent 22 million now on oh, you're doing this to me on purpose. Castagana, having spent 22 million on, I don't think there's enough left in the pot for the other defender to be in the 40 million bracket.
No, I'm surprised. If that's the fee, I'm surprised. I know I think it's 22 million euros, but that's still, a good chunk of the money gone. Tagliafico, I think, is a great player. And what I like about him is he's aggressive. And I think the one thing you could, apart from passing backwards too much against Chilwell, I don't think anybody would say he was an aggressive fullback.
No.
And I think that's what we need. Someone who wants to get forward but is aggressive. Going way back to, I was at the cup game when we were away at Millwall. And there was a famous incident where Chilwell didn't want to take throw-ins in front of the home fans. Now, he said it was because he hurt his wrist. I'm not so sure. He never struck me as the bravest of fullbacks, did Chilwell. I'd like someone who's pacey and aggressive.
I don't think I'd fancy much doing throw-ins in front of the Millwall crowd. I'll give him that one. But Facebook used it there, and I just put that up because to me, and I see where it's coming from. But when we're talking about Poxy 10 million, does that show how far we've come as a club that we think that we can go out and buy somebody? It's in a good way because we've come on so far and we're no longer, although we do seem to sell one big player a season. But to be talking like that shows how far we've come.
Oh, definitely. And I think it's a tricky one, isn't it? By all accounts, Ivan Toney is a really good player and a good finisher. Now, whether you can take that, it's a lot to ask to jump 2 divisions. So it could be that, it's the right move for him going to Brentford. And, these days you see more and more players moving on after 1-2 seasons. Whereas it used to be, you'd make the move, you'd be there for 3 seasons, whatever. And nowadays, a lot of people move after 1. If you're proved worthy enough, and the club can turn a profit. So it'd be interesting to keep an eye on him.
But if he's gone to Brentford, do you think that means that Ollie Watkins could be on the way out, and that's a possibility?
Definitely. Yeah. I think. Villa seem favourites. And again, they show you that, they've spent quite a bit of money on strikers and it's not worked. Of all the positions, striker is the difficult one. They cost you the most and everyone's hit and miss,
I think with the striker, I think the problem when you buy a striker is you expect them to score goals. And it doesn't matter how much work rate they put in, what effort they put in, it stands out so much if they're not scoring goals. You can't hide behind that stat. You're a striker, you're not scoring goals.
They're measured on it, aren't they? They're measured on goals, and I guess there's a little bit more they get away with these days. These days because we've got fantasy leagues, people are a lot more aware of assists, for instance. So you do see more of an all-around game from a striker than just goals, as long as someone else is banging them in. If no one's banging them in and you're the striker, it's not going to work.
Not going to work. I'm just going to post this up because there we go. We need a striker and Dwight Neal from Burnley, and maybe a centre-back if Benkovic goes out on loan once again. Now, this is one of these occasions where I can actually say, now I know somebody here. Because I used to, I lived in Burnley for 25 years, and I actually used to work for the local paper. And so a lot of my friends from Burnley, being newspaper associated, are sports journalists. So I'm just going to, I was talking to the guy that's going to do my opposition view for me. And he actually is the chief sports writer for the Burnley Express. And I probably can't find it now, but I did put it up earlier. And he said he's been told by a source close to the player, and being the paper, he tends to be, and I know him from old, not one that will sort of go with every rumour that social media spits out. But told by a source close to the player that as many as 7 Premier League clubs are keen on Dwight on him, as well as Juve and AC Milan. But it would take an offer Burnley couldn't refuse to get him to leave or get them to sell. We're not in that bracket, are we, of making offers that teams can't, refuse?
Well, an offer that Burnley can't refuse may be very different to an offer that a top 6 club can't refuse with their backers. Burnley don't have big pockets. They do really well. They are a classic sort of punching above their weight, and they don't have to sell. I get that, but they have to balance the books as well. So it depends what they class as an offer they can't refuse. I think the question will be, I think he's going to take somewhere around 30 million. It's whether we think he's 30 million better than Harvey Barnes.
Yeah. Because I think we said on the weekend show that we did, our midfield is actually quite full. There's actually a lot of players in there, and it's, how silly do we go? And, you can go mad. And, I think I look at Villa when they came up last season, they brought in sort of virtually a whole new team. And they only just managed to survive. So, like with Leicester, they guessed it.
I totally agree with that comment there. The boss in defence or midfield, and I think I mentioned this on the previous one that we did. That there's nobody in that team for me that will take a game by the scruff of the neck, and I mean that footballing wise as well as physically. That will galvanise that set of players like a Walsh, like a Taggart, even Neil Lennon. Someone who will drive the team onwards. And the biggest missing element for me, and I've said this before as well, is a driving force in midfield, someone who wants to get forward and score goals from midfield. I think we have too many, for the want of a better word, posers. People who want to look good on the ball, great players, and don't knock them, but I don't see a desire to score goals. And back in the day, and you can tell by my hair, it was a while back. I played as a striker, and I just wanted to score goals. That was it. There was nothing better than the ball hitting the back of the net, and you hurt yourself to do it. And I don't see that in our team. I really don't, and that's a worry for me.
But do you think this? I mean, I know a lot of players a lot of fans these days are criticising where we go fishing for players. That we're getting players from lower divisions, when now, if we want to be a top 6 side, we should be fishing from bigger ponds. But by fishing from maybe the Championship and what have you, look at the likes of Vardy, are they not the hungrier players that will, go out there and give 110%, where you say some of the posers, if you like, tend to think, well, I've done my job, we've got a draw,
I agree, to be honest. If that were the case, we can all look at the Fantasy League stats and we can all pick up a player. These should be professionals with a big scouting network who can spot talent that's not going to cost us, all our budget. We can all look at players in the Premier League already and say, yes, I'd love him, I'd love that one. And it's great if you can nick one of those and gradually every year improve your team a little bit. The problem is we're at a stage now where we're greedy. We want success quicker. It's not a matter of just improving a little, because we've set that high barrier now. If you want to finish one place higher than we did last season, we're going to be in the Champions League, which arguably we should have been again. So we're setting ourselves a high bar, and it's going to be difficult to maintain it, and but to do that, we may need to think short term and splash out and get 2 or 3 proven Premier League players to buy us the time for the other ones to come through.
No, I mean, I look at as very much as an example of that. When you look at Vardy and where he's come from, and he is, even now, he's still hungry for it. And when we bought Slimani, who at the time, Slimani was our record buy, 30 million, you know, and still can't believe I'm talking about these figures when I talk about Leicester. But, he looks like he could, he doesn't have that final, I'm going to go and get that ball. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm misreading it, but to me, that's the difference between the players. And it is a very difficult problem. It is a problem in getting the players from the lower divisions that are good enough to take that step up. We did very well with the likes of Vardy and like Mahrez and Kante from lower divisions, but it's just that hunger they've got that the big names haven't got. Yeah,
I totally agree. You know, you can see a player who's hungry. You know, and it makes up for a little bit in a lack of skill or experience, I guess. But somebody who wants to really progress and see this. I mean, Maddison is a guy who's hungry because he wants to be at the top level. I think he's just got to find his place at the minute. I'm not sure he knows what type of player he wants to be. I noticed it was interesting that there was an advert on Sky Sports for the New England kits today that had been launched.
Yeah.
And Maddison was one of them showing their kit off. So he's still clearly part of the plans there, you know, when he gets back to full fitness. But, you know, he's got to stop being a playboy and he's got to start putting some performances in. Otherwise, he'll be Leicester City's Dele Alli.
Just as aside from that, and I can't remember who it was, but posted to the group the New England kit, saying, "What do we think of the New England kit?" And it was them showing Harry Kane posing in it. I thought, I'm not posting that to the group. Absolutely blasted.
No.
But Eduardo, I mean, those rumours don't go away, and I suppose that's the Rodgers link. I mean, everything else has gone a bit quiet. I noticed that on the social media sites. Everything's gone a bit quiet now. It seems making that buy. But again, could he be, you know, that extra striker that we need?
I think he's a tricky one, isn't he, Eduardo? Because, you know, we always have that thing about the Scottish League. Is it all that? Yeah. You know, if you know where the net is and you can take chances, then you're a decent striker. The thing is that you get a lot more chances in the Scottish League. Yeah. You know, when you come down here in the Premier League, you know, you may be lucky if you get 1-2 chances a game and you've got to be clinical. So, you know, Rodgers is going to know that better than we do. And I think, for me, if he really wants him, I think he's in a prime position to go and get him. If we don't go and get him, I think that probably tells you that Rodgers isn't sure.
And I mean, I just had a horrible. I shook there because I had a horrible memory of Mark de Vries. Although he was Dutch, he was knocking them in for love and money at the in the Scottish League, and came down here. And I think enough said about him. I'm just trying to think. Who was the guy that we got from? Was it Hearts? Craig Levein. And we seemed to sort of.
Craig Levein.
Yeah, and we had a team of Scots then, and we struggled. But flipping it on its head, Jock Wallace, of course, brought quite a few Scots down, and we didn't do too bad under him.
Yeah, Gary McAllister and Ali Mocklin. I mean, you know, What wouldn't you give for that sort of sapphire and steel, or you know, kind of link up again? Yeah. You know, the ideal. We had the same really with Muzzy Izzet and Lennon. You know, you've got both sides of it, and we should have that with Ndidi and Maddison and Tielemans. We should have that blend there. Yes. My worry is that we've got a Vardy who is doing great, but is more static than he was, and you've got two wide players who are still learning the game and don't know the right runs to make. So when you get that talented midfield, they look in front of them, and there isn't that many runs being made. So if we do bring in a striker, we need one, or a winger. We need one who's got some clever movement. Yeah.
And my mind's gone blank there. But what I was going to say was, going back to our possible new side, and it still isn't on the site or on Sky yet, but it's not bad. 3 Belgians. I think we could do worse than Belgians at the moment, couldn't we? But Are we going to hold on to all of them? Because there's still, I mean, we did touch on this at the weekend, Pryor possibly moving to Italy.
Well, yeah, I hope we keep Pratt. I do hope we keep Pratt. I think he's shown enough, for someone who's been in and out of the team and hasn't been given a regular run. He's looked really solid to me. So what he'd be like with half a dozen straight games under his belt would be interesting. Have we got some live reporting coming up?
Well, it just said that, and I am just looking here, but still nothing up. I think people are sort of taking the Mercury news story and putting two and two together. I mean, this is Leicester. We wring the last ounces of sweat out of our fans, don't we?
I think what appears to happen, particularly with like the Leicester Mercury, they just regurgitate the same stories, and everybody's picking up the same story and just running with it at the minute. And I'm not sure who knows the truth anymore. Everybody reports a previous report as fact. What I'd really like the Leicester Mercury to be doing is asking some of those challenging questions. They're the ones who have the direct line into Brendan Rodgers. So why are we not asking the question, what do you think of Slimani? What do you think of X player, Y player? That's what the fans want to know. All we see is players like this who are at the club. We don't know if he fancies him, if he doesn't. I'm guessing he doesn't. But, someone in a position of access should be asking those questions and working on behalf of the fans. And I find it really frustrating that the Leicester Mercury don't do that. And I understand very often they don't want to antagonise the powers that be, like in a Mourinho way, or you get cut off and not allowed into any press conferences. But there is the voice of the fans. So ask some challenging questions, please.
I have noticed with the Mercury that, because I use News Now a lot and I tend to use their headlines a lot, basically just to sort of keep everybody involved. And you know as much as I do that 99% of the rumours at this time of year are total and utter BS. But you never know. You post them in the hope that one or two of them might have some legs on them. But the Mercury do seem to just regurgitate what's on there. And when you actually see the headline and then read the story, it's the two things aren't always linked.
They seem to drop out the odd word, which makes the headline a lot more interesting.
Yes, they do. But
quickly, just interesting. I wanted to go back.
Oh.
Sorry, I was just going to go back because we were talking about our left backs, and there was something that you put on earlier, I think, and you talked about a list of potential left backs, and there was one in there who you said Leicester fans don't want, and it was Matt Targett from Villa.
Yes, it was.
Now, I'd be interested in hearing people's opinions of him because. I really like Matt Targett. I think I liked him when he was at Southampton. He didn't get a lot of game time because he was behind Ryan Bertrand at the time. And when he came into Villa, I think he wasn't first choice immediately. But for me, he is like the closest thing you're going to get to Andy Robertson in terms of his aggression and desire to get forward. Now, I think he would be well worth a punt for me. I mean, he's still only 24, I think. And I think there's that thing of we shouldn't be buying players from Villa. And I get that. But if we suddenly said we were going to sign Grealish, I think people would take it. So, I know it's not necessarily an opinion that a lot of people will agree with, but I really like the look of that Targett.
I must admit, when we played, if you take the two league games, and obviously we beat them, we put 4 past them. I think it was in both games, and you got to probably say the defence wasn't that good. But I thought in the cup games he played really well, and he didn't give our strikers much space. And I was I say not overly impressed in the league games, but in the cup games I thought he did all right, and I was just surprised when I put that rumour up there. How many, of our fans sort of were going, no, don't want him, and there wasn't. There was more no's than there wasn't even a mix there.
Yeah,
but like
I saw Roy's giving his opinion straight away on Matt Targett. Poor player who kicks and fouls because he hasn't the quality to defend. I take that, but I think you can put the same to Andy Robertson, who fouls a hell of a lot, and that's tactical fouling. That's how they're taught to play. I'm not saying he's an Andy Robertson, but who would have said Andy Robertson would turn into the player that he has when he was at Hull 2 or 3 seasons ago? I did like him when he was at Hull, actually, and that's why I probably see similar traits in Matt Targett that I saw in Andy Robertson at the time.
Well, I think we've got to be careful we don't get to the position where we'll just say, God's sake, let's just sign anybody, and we get to that panic situation. But when you look at, say, Matt Targett and you say, no, don't want him, wouldn't touch him with the barge pole, and we're being linked with, say, somebody like Joe Bryan at Fulham. Is he not better than him?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can. I think it's sort of symptomatic of what we see these days. He had a couple of great games in the playoffs, and scored a great goal and played well at when. Was anybody talking about him before those games? No, because we hadn't really watched him that much, and he's suddenly come to prominence because of that game, and now all of a sudden he's somebody we should be looking at. I think you've got to take a longer view of these players, and I'm not sure. He looked good in those games, but is that enough to spend 12, 15, 20 million on a player? I'm not so sure.
Well, but my other favourite was, and again, this is somebody that Rodgers knows back from his Celtic days, and Kieran Tierney, who's at Arsenal, of course, now. But he looks now to be getting the game time up at the Emirates. So
I think so. I mean, it was interesting. You saw all the Arsenal fans jumping onto Twitter as soon as it looked like Chilwell was going to go for 45, 50 million, and saying what a bargain that Tierney was. Whereas sort of 6 months earlier, they were like, what the hell have we bought? It takes time to bed in.
It does, and we're nothing if not fickle as football fans, aren't we? Let's be honest, one good game and players are amazing. One bad game and they're total muppets. Just quickly, because I know we're probably coming towards the end of the show now, but here, this Facebook user, what's everybody's stance on Nacho? His contract is short and we doesn't need to get any more game time. We're improving for a year now. Is it time to cash in or keep? I mean, there was rumours again at the start of the season when we were being linked with Eduardo and players like that Nacho may go to make room for them. I like Nacho. I like him. I do. I think we should keep him.
I like him. I like him, and I think in the football that Rodgers wants to play, he suits it because he's got quick feet. He's very good positionally. He takes up some good spaces. I think the issue is any striker in the formation that we currently play, any striker is going to struggle for game time when Jamie Vardy's first on the team sheet. And unless Rodgers has a sudden change of formation where he wants to play 2 up front, I can't see anybody having that much of a game time to actually get a run of games themselves and show what they can really do.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you there. Facebook user again, how long do you want players are signed around us, yet we sign at the last minute each window, then new signings are struggling to fit in? That is very true, because I think years ago, when you signed a player, and again, I'm with you, you've got the grey hair, I've got the no hair, but you used to sign players and they wouldn't see the first team for 6 months. Then they took that time to bed in. I can remember when, and I say it shows how old I am, Liverpool signed a certain Kevin Keegan from Scunthorpe, and I don't think he saw the first team for a whole season. And he was getting in the reserves, he was learning the Liverpool way, and look what happened to him. These days, yes, we sign a player on the Thursday, we expect him to be in the team on the Saturday and playing, marvellously. I don't think players are given the time these days.
No, I think you're right. I mean, it's difficult times, isn't it? We've basically one season's merged into another. I would have liked to have thought that, a lot of our work had been done But I do think with the fact that there's a window now, there wasn't a window in the past.
No.
I think there's a window now, so they know, players know, agents know that it will shut, and they can wait it out and see who comes up with the best deal, the best wages. And I don't think players, unless they're going to big clubs or they know that there's only a little bit of interest, I think a lot of players just hang it out now and they wait and see what they can do, because that window's going into the playing season as well. For me, it should be shut. You've got all year to do your research. Those people in the background are not playing. They should be the ones searching out the players, talking to agents, getting deals done, rather than hanging around. For me, if there's going to be a window, make it a month, get it all done. This dragging it out, I don't understand it. But you're right, players. If we had our best team on the pitch, it'd be interesting to know how many of those people would want to ship out. Because we're talking about we haven't bought X, we haven't bought Y. How many of our best 11 would we not be happy with? And it's an interesting point for me, because if we're looking at players who are going to come straight in the team, that means someone's going out. So what do we want?
I think when you look at it, I think you've got a few names that are immediately you put down, and then there's a few gaps there. The Harvey Barnes role, it depends. He blows hot and cold, and Gray could be on his way out. Those rumours still hanging around. But like you say, this is Leicester. It's a roller coaster ride, and we like to keep our fans waiting, and we like to keep things out. I've just seen a blue shirt on Sky Sports, and it was Glasgow Rangers. It wasn't Leicester City. I was about to get all excited then, but if something can be done in 3 days, Leicester City will take 5. It's the Leicester way. We should be used to it, and we complain about it every year. But one last thing then before we call it a night for the Tuesday, your thoughts on the big debate, which is the maroon shirt. Do you like it? Don't you like it?
I've got to say I'm not a fan. Although the females that I've spoken to about it all seem to like it. I'm not sure. I wonder where it's come from. Whether there's some other influence from somewhere else. Whether maybe it's a popular colour in Thailand. Who knows? It seems to have come out of left field for me.
Did we not have this conversation about 12 months ago about a certain pink shirt? I can remember.
Maybe if we were looking at this cynically, Chris, and saying that it's about selling shirts to a wider demographic, then maybe that's where it's coming from. I don't know. It could be that they've had a good look around all the teams who are in the Europa League, and we need another colour.
But the problem is that I call it purple. My son tells me off. It's not purple, Dad. It's maroon. But there we go. But it's not going to be used in the Europa League. The white shirt is the second shirt in the Europa League, and you can't get the logos or anything on the purple shirt, because that was my thought. But it's. I mean, look at the colour I'm wearing, the gold and the. I mean, I think it is about shirt sales. And I mean, again, I can remember Euro '96 and a certain grey shirt that England produced, which was chosen because it went well with jeans and went on to become one of the best shirts they ever had. So, like you say, it's. I'll moan about them every year, and I'll still go out probably and buy all 3. I always do. Somebody is. There we go. Love the maroon shirt. So I do like a nice change of colour, I must admit. And I say I hated the pink one when it came out, and I refused to have it anywhere near it. I still went out and bought one. So
I think I'm a traditionalist. I mean, I love the blue and I love the white, and if we need a third kit, playing skins. I mean.
Now you are showing your age. You know. Now, do you like? And again, I'll ask this because I had this discussion with somebody, one of those pub type chats. Leicester City, talking of strips, Leicester City always been really, apart from the odd season here and there, blue and white, blue top, white shorts. Yeah. Recently, we've gone all blue, which I must admit I prefer all blue to the blue and white. Do you prefer the blue and white, or are you an all blue man?
I think I'm a blue and white.
Really?
I think maybe I don't know whether it's what we grew up with, because we probably grew up at a similar time, but yeah, I mean, it was blue, white, and blue for me. It just looks a little bit strange. It looks a little bit too much like Chelsea to me when we go all blue.
Yeah. Well, on that note, having mentioned Chelsea, going to say thank you very much, Craig. Let's hope in the next 24 hours that we actually see somebody putting pen to paper and see the pictures of him holding the shirt up and what have you. And thank you to everybody who's watched in and commented. Blue, white with a hint of yellow. I hated yellow. I'm not going to hide the fact I could not stand. I didn't mind the gold ones, but the yellow ones I absolutely hated.
Yeah.
But no, thank you to everybody, and thank you. Yes, it is. That's very true, Andy. It was Blue and White Army.
Well done, Andy. That is true.
That is true, and I will stand down on that one and go, I can't argue with that point. Sometimes you've just got to be, yeah, I was wrong. So, yeah. So, from the Blue and White Army, thanks to everybody who tuned in and commented. Again, thanks to you, Craig, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Any ideas what you'd like to talk about next Tuesday at this point?
Well, I'm hoping that we'll probably run out of time talking about all our new signings over the next week. But we'll see. And obviously, the people who are watching as well, and I think it's right. If you want us to discuss something, let Chris know, and we'll try and pull it to bits.
And of course, this time next week will be only 4 or 5 days off the big kickoff.
I know, scary.
It is very scary, but thanks to everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be here again next Tuesday. Be there or not spherical, as they say. And I'll take care, Craig, and I'll see you then.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Cheers. Bye-bye.